The US Special Envoy to Sudan has warned that the fall of the besieged city of El Fasher could be imminent. In a BBC interview, Tom Piriello described the situation as horrific. Fighting between Sudan's army and the paramilitary forces has been intensifying there over the past month, and hundreds of graves have been discovered. The country is in the midst of a devastating civil war that began 14 months ago. Across the country, more than 15,000 people are estimated to have been killed since the conflict started in April 2023, while almost 9 million have been forced to flee their homes. El Fasher is the only city still under army control in the entire Darfur region, and there have been repeated warnings about the situation there. This is the UN.
Colleagues at UNICEF have received harrowing reports that at least 6 children have been killed and many more injured in the city since the 7th of June. Thousands of children, including those living in large displacement camps, are trapped in the middle of the increased fighting and are not able to reach safety.
Well, our senior Africa correspondent Anne Soy is in Nairobi. Incredibly difficult to get access to Darfur, Anne. So what have you been able to find out?
That's right. Incredibly difficult for anyone on the outside to get in there, but also for one of the warring parties, the Sudan Armed Forces. We understand that it has been difficult for them to replenish their troops there, and the rival paramilitary unit, the RSF, has been closing in. It is intent on taking the city from the army. As you said, it's the last remaining stronghold for the army in Darfur. And there are real fears that it could fall imminently, but the ramifications of that is what most people are worried about. And that's really because of the atrocities that were witnessed last year in another city to the west of El Fasher, El Janina, where an estimated 10 to 15,000 people were killed, predominantly the Masalit ethnic black communities there. So the big worry is that this conflict is increasingly taking an ethnic dimension, and there are satellite images that have been analyzed that have shown that villages where the Zagawa community in El Fasher, which is a black community predominantly inhabit, have been razed between the end of May and early this month. And that is really a big worry. This war that was essentially a political fallout between two generals descending into an ethnic conflict in that region. And this is what we found out from El Fasher.
This is now the daily reality in El Fasher, the latest frontline in Sudan's year-long war. No one is safe here anymore. There has been a spike in arson activity. At least 8 villages have been razed, the homes of mainly the Zagawa ethnic group. Evidence investigators say of ethnic targeting by the Rapid Support Forces. This mother and her family survived recent shelling. She doesn't know if the blood on her toddler's face is his siblings, or father's. They are injured and are receiving emergency treatment at the Said Shohaba Health Center, one of the last facilities still running. The medics here are stretched. They only attend to the most severe cases. So volunteers from the community have come together to support them.
From our own efforts and the efforts of well-wishers, we managed to get some emergency medicines from some contributors. Those who could not provide medicines gave us money to buy the drugs from the market.
They are constantly changing things here, expanding or repairing the facility as the crucial work of saving lives continues.
So we managed to continue our activities, but of course with lots of difficulties, and also we'll need replenishment very, very soon, so some supply to arrive. If not, it will be very complicated to continue the activities indeed.
There was another setback last weekend. This is what was left of the South Hospital after RSF fighters stormed in, opened fire and looted it on Saturday. Staff and patients escaped. Now, the referral facility, which saw 1,300 wounded patients in the past month, has been shut. And there are fears things could get worse should the city fall.
We need this to end. We are working towards a local ceasefire, as many are. We need cooler heads to prevail and get this particular battle paused, while we also don't take our eye off of other parts of Sudan.
It is Sudan civilians who bear the biggest brunt in this war, a conflict described by some as senseless. the result of a political fallout between two generals, which has left thousands dead, millions displaced, and nearly a third of the country facing food shortages. Anne Soy, BBC News.
And Anne is still with us now from Nairobi. And you've also been speaking to the US Special Envoy, and he's very worried that Darfur could fall pretty quickly to the RSF.
That is right. And he has warned that if the RSF thinks that if it takes over El Fasher and completes its control of the Darfur region, that it could partition Sudan. He sent a very strong warning from the US that it will not recognize that. And therefore, that is the situation really for people. More than 1 million Sudanese trapped in El Fasher, trying to flee from the city. Every day, their resources are dwindling. The safe places are running out. And, you know, he was talking about 45,000 pregnant women as well who are caught in the middle of this crisis with no form of prenatal care or even just basic nourishment to ensure that they have healthy pregnancies. So the situation, the humanitarian situation on the ground is really dire. And the worry is, should El Fasher fall, it could only get worse.
So the ambassador calling for peace talks, but the US accused for taking their time in pushing for those talks and not paying enough attention to the conflict in Sudan.
Tom Perriello did admit that, yes, the international community has failed Sudan. It has not paid as much attention to the conflict there as is being paid to other conflicts. He did mention the Gaza conflict, for instance. This is a conflict that preceded the October 7th attacks. And he said that, you know, there's much more that the international community can do for Sudan, push the warring sides to come together to the negotiating table. There has been notable unwillingness, particularly from the army side. It has set conditions for it to take part in talks. Many of those conditions have been difficult to meet before they can come together. And really, Tom Perriello is saying the solution to this conflict is not more war. It's really something that can be sorted out through talks, because at the core of it is a political issue, but now, because of the situation in Darfur, it is taking a completely different dimension, stoking ethnic tensions. The Zagawa community that has been displaced in El Fasher, for instance, had wanted to stay neutral in this conflict when it broke out last year. It did not want to take sides, but now it has been inevitably sucked in and been forced to take the side of the national army. And, you know, it's only the civilians who end up suffering as a result.
Anne, thank you very much. Anne Soy in Nairobi.